To hold and give and do it at the right time, and the right time is now to do a podcast about the football. I realise I've left my glasses on, which I don't normally do for this podcast, but in for a penny, in for a pound, eh? I don't know what that means in that context, but there we go, Jack Atkins.
We love flying by the seat of our pants here, but that was some fantastic MCing. We could put you in the Carousel tent at Leeds with that kind of improvisation.
I don't think so. Leave that to Tiesto and other people like that. Have I got the wrong kind of tent? I don't know. I just heard tent and Leeds and thought Tiesto.
It's the right kind of tent, but Tiesto is a DJ rather than an MC.
Yeah, he
just does that a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah, aye. And presses all the buttons. Aren't DJs frauds, eh? Aren't they frauds? Just hitting the right button at the right time. Load of bollocks. Yeah.
Modern DJs, definitely, yeah.
This is a football podcast. Ross, Tweddell and Jack Atkins here to go through the week's happenings with a fine-tooth comb, laugh at your opinions, and also, Clive F., find out what happened on this day in football history. It's a big day in the history of football, I assume. I don't know if it is for sure, but I assume it is.
It's not actually a big day. I've managed to find three for you. September 20th, but they were thin. It's not a bumper day in the annals of football history, but I provide anyway. So yeah. September 20th, 2003, Damien Duff and Crespo scored their first goals for Chelsea in a 5-0 drubbing of Wolves. So Jimmy Floyd and Frank Lampard opened scoring. Damien Duff made it 3-0. Crespo slotted 2. Routine.
If that's the biggest news of the day, we're on for a bumper day, September the 20th in this day in football history.
It doesn't get much better, especially if you're a fan of the Championship 2008, because September 20th, 2008, it was Watford versus Reading, and it was notable refs being wank. This was when Watford's John Eustace put the ball out facing Reading's Noel Hunt, but the linesman somehow and for some reason chalked it up as an own goal, and Stuart Atwell said, "Yep. Own goal, stands," and AD Boothroyd went berserk. So, as
he should do, this was the famous ghost goal of the noughties. There's been a few more examples of ghost goals, but it definitely it didn't happen, did it? But it got given. Fantastic scenes.
Yeah, and you say fantastic scenes. I was watching it back. It's bloody awful, and it's annoying that this is the kind of thing which was an argument to introduce VAR, but even with VAR, I wouldn't be surprised if this happened in this day and age.
Oh my God, don't even get me on the referees after this weekend. As a Newcastle fan, that game against Brentford, Thomas Frank having the platform on Monday Night Football to whine and piss and moan about a penalty. I do agree with him. Anthony Gordon's little dive, he won us a penalty there. It wasn't a penalty. But the fact they had a goal chalked off because Callum Wilson stood next to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper called Flecking, call him flapping. He's an arsehole. He flaps at the ball and it goes in the back of the net. And then they also have a guy, what I think it was in Buemo at the back post. He's doing an impersonation of an elephant, Jack Atkins. He's got his arm there. You know how it goes, how the kids do that sort of thing. Handball doesn't get given. Referee reverses it, even though he goes to the monitor. It's arm. Referees are pissing me off. We need to get rid of VAR. It's got no better. We're still having the same discussions we would be having if VAR wasn't here.
Well, I'll tell you a discussion we were having on September 20th, 2009. It was Man United 4, Man City 3.
What a scorching day that was. I remember that day being a Sunday. I remember in Morpeth Town watching at the Comrades Club, going outside, and it was a blisteringly hot Northumberland late September day.
Yeah, but it was just a shame how it all ended, because obviously Rooney made it 1-0, Gareth Barry levelled, Fletcher netted twice for United, Bellamy netted twice for City, then Michael Owen got the winner, didn't he? In the 6th minute of stoppage time, the arsehole.
He is a massive arsehole. Went on strike in the final dying embers of his days at Newcastle United. As we also saw documented in Paul Ferris's book, who was the physio at the time. He rocks up there and slots it away like he didn't. He did for a short spell for Newcastle, but not often enough. I remember that game for Ben Foster having a Western Supermare. I remember there was a goal Bellamy scored where he's sort of running in and cutting in from the left, and he sort of dribbles it past Ben Foster, who just goes down anyway for some reason. And Bellamy slots it away. So maybe that was the day that Ben Foster found out he wasn't Manchester United level.
No, yeah, he may have just been frightened that Craig Bellamy was going to twat him or something. You never know.
He always seems like a nice fella, Craig Bellamy, until he steps on the football pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a golf course.
I was going to say, or on a golf course, definitely.
He is a little arsehole, but when he's your arsehole, you love him as an arsehole because he's an arsehole for your team.
Yeah, and he was cracking at Liverpool both times. So, but when he wasn't at Liverpool, yeah, little prick.
Cracking Jean Arisa, I think you mean. So that was a bumper edition of Clive F's On This Day, He Peace Freely. What happened on this day in football history? I can't wait for next week's. Hopefully it's a bit better.
Well, fingers crossed, what can I say?
Who knows what might happen? The world is our oyster, but also last night in this world, we saw the Champions League make its return. The big headlines from the night, I guess, have to be Manchester City coming from behind to beat Red Star Belgrade 3-1 at the Etihad. My favourite part from watching the highlights of this game, I didn't see the full match, but was hearing the Manchester City fans chant at the Red Star Belgrade fans, "Champions of Europe, you'll never sing that." Of course, they won the competition in 1991.
I don't know what it is with fans of Manchester teams and being crap at chanting, but City have taken the baton from United fans, haven't they? Jesus.
It was a shocking chant. And also, I guess, Julian Alvarez, his goal, have you seen how he twinkle toes his way around the goalkeeper, and he has to hit it as early as he does, otherwise I think it's going to go out of play, or maybe the angle is going to be too narrow from slotted in the goal. But the way he just sort of goes, I'm going to try and for people watching on YouTube, try and display what he did in case you didn't see it with my hand. He went, ha! In one movement. It was incroyable.
Yeah, at first glance, it looked like he'd either scuffed or tripped, and then you watch it and you're like, oh no, I just forgot that Julian Alvarez is just very, very, very good at football. It was a beautiful finish.
Yeah, Manchester City coming from behind, of course. It was a shock to see them go a goal down.
Yes and no, because City, especially when Pep's tinkering, obviously he wasn't tinkering too much, but they're unpredictable in that way. You always know that they're going to win, unfortunately, but I'm never surprised to see them go behind.
Are you not?
No, never am. Just because they're erratic at times, but it's just as soon as they decide, right, we're going into the next gear and we're just going to batter someone, it's inevitable. But we saw it in the Super Cup, didn't we?
Yeah.
They went behind and then the inevitable happened and they came back. It's just one of them.
It is one of them, and it happens all the time.
It's the hope that kills you, Ross. It's the hope that kills you.
It is, aye. And hope is what Newcastle United had when they went to the San Siro for their first Champions League game in 20 years. Live stream is on the Hold and Give Football YouTube channel right now if you want to see my live reactions. I think I lost a few lives. Lost a few years off my life watching that game last night because how AC Milan didn't score at least 3 or 4. We will never know. Nick Pope having a fantastic game. Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier having fantastic games. Jacob Murphy clearing one off the line. Newcastle didn't offer too much going forward, but they could have nicked it right at the end. Sean Longstaff had a bit of a thunder bastard from the edge of the goal. He puts it like 2 yards either side of the sub goalkeeper who came on for Magnon in the second half. He puts it 2 yards either side. I think it flies in the back of the net. But if you offer me a point, 0-0 away at the San Siro, first Champions League game for 20 years, I'm taking it. But especially under those circumstances. We got battered, Jarkins. Battered.
Yeah, I had this one. I forgot that it was an early start because I just trimmed my beard and I thought, oh, go have a nice shower. And then I opened my phone and I just saw all the Newcastle fans that I follow being like, oh, I'm bricking it. And I was like, oh, crap, better go watch the footy. I popped into the live stream for a second.
You did?
Bit of a hip the better. But yeah, like you said, even though Milan swarmed at times, there were spells, especially the beginning of both halves, where Newcastle were just like, right, let's go for this. I think Miggy coming on as well looked like he had a real point to prove. But like you said, you'd take a point before a ball was kicked. Let's hope you can just finish your dinner and hold on at St. James's.
Yeah, it's going to be the home form that might get us through. I still don't think we'll make it through the group because it is that strong of a group with Dortmund and PSG. PSG beat Dortmund 2-0 in the other game. Mbappé got a penalty and I forget who scored the second goal. I think it was Hakimi maybe. I think you remember slalom running into the box, yeah. So I don't think we'll get through the group. It was weird because obviously Milan came into the game after getting hoofed 5-1 by Inter at the weekend there. They have won 3 of the 4 games in Serie A, including a 2-1 win away at Roma with 10 men. So, they've had a decent start of the season. But you think about that game, the wheels potentially have fallen off. They've got Zlatan coming into the training ground to have a go at the players to to pull their fingers out their arseholes. And Newcastle made them like one of the best teams in Europe. It was a weird turn of events because we were very, very cautious with our tactics. But again, I can see why. We're away from home in the San Siro, for goodness sake. Who do we think we are?
Well, yeah, even though it's not a vintage Milan side, it's still AC Milan. And fair play to Newcastle for not letting the occasion fully get on top of them. But yeah, like we've said, a point of the San Siro is still very, very good, no matter who you are.
And it was all worth it for Jacob Murphy's face during the Champions League anthems at the start. My God, it's always nice to see football players being real. Jacob Murphy, who's been on loan to Sheffield Wednesday in League One and people like that, he's in there, he's starting in the Champions League, and he couldn't hide the joy from his face. It was fantastic to see. But there we go, we'll take the point, we'll move on to the next game. And the other highlight of the night last night in the Champions League had to be Lazio goalkeeper Ivan Provedel, who scored an incredible header. It was Mart Poom-esque. I think that happened maybe on this day yesterday, about 20 years ago now. Mart Poom for Sunderland away at Derby County when he flew like a kipper through the air, headed in at the back post. But yeah, Provedel scores the 95th minute equaliser for Lazio against Atletico. The last touch of the game, it was an incredible deft sort of flick. It was a flick header with a bit of power, if that makes any kind of sense. It was a lovely header, and they got the point in the end.
It was the run he made for it, which was beautiful, because he proper let on to whoever sent in the cross. He was like, right, here we go. And it was perfect. It was an absolute... You wouldn't say that was a goalkeeper's finish. The only thing that I would have liked for serendipity, I'm sure that Provedel, he's number 94, isn't he, on the back of his shirt. So if he would have scored it 30 seconds earlier...
Number 94 in the 94th minute.
But this goes back to what we were saying last week. Obviously, I was saying about... I wouldn't say Mart Poom was a renegade, but, you know, chalking back up to the renegade keepers of the 90s, and that the more kind of like, you know, not...
Carefree.
Not by the book. Yeah. Yes, there we go. Carefree. You just love to see it, don't you? It's like seeing a dog on the pitch. You're like, go ahead. Yes, goalkeepers. That's what it's all about.
Who was that player that got his career ended by a dog gun on the pitch and running into his knee, doing his cruciate or something like that in the 70s or 80s?
Yeah, I've seen it. I can't remember who it is.
It's horrible to watch knowing what happens after the fact, but when you're watching it in real time, it doesn't look like much, but it's a fantastic little clip if you can dig it out on YouTube. But yeah, up the dogs on the football pitches. I saw a lovely dog in a Newcastle shirt in Milan, a lovely sort of like, maybe, like, it was more ginger than chocolate, but a ginger/chocolate Labrador, if that makes any sense to anybody. But what a wonderful dog it was. Anyway, I guess that was the highlight of the night from the Champions League. Celtic got beat elsewhere. I'm trying to think of anything else. Anything else you saw last night that caught your eye?
Barca romped to, was it a 5-0 win, and it looked...
What are their goals they scored? My God, it was like Pep Barcelona from back in the day, tiki-taka.
It really was. It did look like the Barca of old. It's one of those of Barcelona that I always forget that they won the league last year, because in my head I'm just like, Barca are finished. They're just not what they were. They've got 25p to the name. They're not even in the new camp. And then you watch them and you're just like, oh yeah, it is still Barcelona. And they still play very good football and have very good players. But I don't think I was expecting a 5-0.
No, it was João Felix, I think, who scored the goal I was referencing there, which is also a shock considering... Well, he was an out-of-form Chelsea team, let's put it that way, an out-of-sorts Chelsea team. But to see him putting it away last night like he did, it was still a shock to me.
I think he got... Was it 2 goals and an assist on the night? He was basically everything that happened went through him, from what I saw from the highlights anyway.
Yeah, what a player when he's not playing in England. Anyway, speaking of England, we move on to the Premier League highlights or the headlines from the weekend there. Brighton took the absolute piss out of Manchester United at Old Trafford, even though they made 6 changes and were missing Pervis Estepinian. The hip-hop and happening news segment. Sorry, let me give it its full title after I forgot what it was, the full title from last week. Just a second there. It's the best segment on this podcast. Welcome to Brighton and Hove Albion fullback, Pervis Estepinian. What are you talking about? Where we take a rash opinion from a listener and pull it apart and maybe have a little giggle along the way, but that's coming up later in the podcast. But Estepinian, he was missing from the Brighton side, but they still went there. They played De Zerbi ball. Scrummy. Manchester United have now lost 3 of their first 5 league games for the first time since 1989.
I comment on that bit because it'll be obviously very biased, but I will go to say Pascal Gross is absolutely fantastic. For Man United, we've said for many weeks now that they're a very weird side. I'm just looking at my phone because I've got my notes on there. I'm not being rude. But the Man U just looked absolutely clueless at times, I think was the main word that I took from it. Rashford had many opportunities, but just was having one of those days that he couldn't finish his dinner. I thought Thingy looked good. What's his name?
Danny Welbeck.
Well, Danny Welbeck, like, because I was out on Saturday and I looked at my phone and went, Danny Welbeck's, geez. young lad that Højlund. I thought Højlund looked decent for United as well. But Brighton are one of those that in my head I'm still like, it's only Brighton, forgetting that they've been fantastic all season, really good last season. De Zerbi ball is clearly working in spades. I just want to see if they can maintain it over a season.
Yeah, because when they start the European campaign, which I guess does it start this week? The Europa League, like the Champions League did.
I think we're
next week.
Let me double check.
I wouldn't care with my team playing on a Tuesday and or a Wednesday night. But yeah, once that kicks in and they're playing away wherever they're going to, I think they've got Marseille in their group. If I'm remembering rightly, I might be just making things up again. But once that starts, that's the real acid test for this Brighton squad.
No, the Europa League starts this week because we're playing Lask tomorrow night.
Oh, is that the brother of Alexis
McAllister?
Yeah,
Kevin McAllister.
Big Kev McAllister. But for the Man United game, we should say like Højlund's disallowed goal, he was good, but Rashford clearly didn't hook the ball back in time before it crossed the dead ball line. There was a fantastic bit of commentary from someone I heard over the weekend where he said gross profits for Brighton against Manchester United once again. Gross profits for Brighton against Manchester United once again. It's a double entendre. Gross profits, big profits. Gross profits, Pascal profits. Yes, lovely. You speak about Højlund there having a good game. The boos when he was taken off with the score 2-0. Is Erik ten Hag starting to lose it? Because it looked like he was sorting things out last season. There obviously was a massive improvement from the Ralph Rangnick days, but now he's got the Sancho thing going on. He's got this going on where the supporters are booing his sort of like tactical changes, if you want to call it one of those. What's going on?
We've spoken at length of the turmoil behind the scenes at United. I just think this is more of the fact that he looked so bright, and considering they were chasing a win, to take him off just seemed stupid. There could be questions about, fitness. I think Ten Hag even alluded to that in his post-match presser. But yeah, when you're chasing a win, you're not going to take him off, are you? But I don't think he's losing it. And I don't think this was like Pep-esque tinkering. I just think that, and we seem to say this every year with Man United, the challenge is bigger than we all realise. It's let's have our football cliche of the week, Ross. The rot has well and truly set in.
They are a massive tree stump of Manchester United, and there is a rot in the centre of it.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is, apart from, bring back the days where a manager could smack around the back of the head for being...
If there is one manager who's going to do it in the league, it would appear to be Erik ten Hag, because he has no problem just casting people out. Because we're going to talk about in the more like sort of the football headlines later on. But Sancho's been just sort of cast out. He's been told to train away from the first team. He's been handed a fine for his social media post where he called himself a scapegoat. He doesn't care about laying it out as Ten Hag, no matter who it is. Apparently, Sancho's on 420 grand a week.
And apparently, I saw this online, but I didn't corroborate it to make sure if it was true or if it was someone just taking the mick. Apparently, Sancho took a holiday to New York last week during the international break. I don't know if that actually happened or if that was, someone on Twitter/X with a grudge finding old pictures. But if he has taken that time to go away, then he's clearly not taking things seriously. Again, this is all from what we can see, but what's happened there? What has happened there?
Imagine that lad at Dortmund. Everyone was getting linked with him. All the big teams were getting linked with him. To now, it is an unbelievable decline.
Yeah. Come, we'll take him. We'll get Uncle Jürgen to, instill some, I don't know, some manners and some manners. That's not even a word. But come to Liverpool, we'll straighten him out.
But I will go back to Ten Hag sort of flapping after the game. He made his comments as well about Brighton being one of the teams who spent money to get to where they are, which is fantastic. Everyone on X.com pointed out that the starting 11 for that game against Manchester United and their billions and billions on their squad was 16.2 million. That's unbelievable for any sort of Premier League outfit. Maybe even Luton must be close to 16.2 million for their starting 11.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Brighton scouts are the envier thing of every big team in the country at the moment. They're fantastic.
Well, they've either been split apart to Newcastle or Chelsea, so we'll have to see if this good form continues with this summer signings, I know they made a couple of signings. There was a lad from, one of the French teams. They signed a midfield to replace Caicedo. If he's a good one, there's something in the waters down there at Brighton that you must drink a magic potion, then all of a sudden you can just find talent all around the world no matter what's going on.
See, I've never been to Brighton, but I've always heard good things, so I might have to go down, drink some water, and then who knows, the Mersey Maldini might rise from the ashes once again.
Speaking of Merseyside, we might as well go to Goodison Park this time, or Woodison as I like to call it, because I went to the away end once and everything was wooden, including the beer. But yes, we had the upside that was, but wasn't, but was. Gary Neville was, that's not right, it doesn't feel right, it's an offside call. But you can see when Gabriel plays the ball off Beto, and Nketiah is coming back from an offside position, so when the Arsenal player touches it, if he's offside, he's offside.
Yeah, I think it's just more kind of Neville, I think, taking aim at the kind of clinical nature of the game, whereas he wasn't affecting play, but like you said, to the letter of the law, offside is offside. There is a black and white to it, but I think it's the kind of playing with logic side of Gary Neville.
Yeah, and I guess,
and obviously in his day, obviously never an offside, but.
He always held a tight line to Gary Neville. I don't know why I'm making him sound like Wurzel Gummidge, but there we go.
You say that though. If I close my eyes, he's here in the room. So.
Sorry, audio listeners. I'll mute that. That was his orgasm when Torres scored that goal against Barcelona. What else was happening at Goodison Park? We had obviously Arteta taking things a bit ugly against an Everton side who didn't really lay too many gloves on them. I was a bit disappointed because this is Sean Dyche going up against Arsenal. Normally bloody loves it. But also Mikel Arteta bringing in David Raya for Aaron Ramsdale, who had started 76 of the last 77 Premier League games. Excuse me.
I've just got to bugger off for a minute. I've actually locked Sean out the house.
You go and get Sean in. As I was saying before, we're so rudely interrupted by Sean being locked out the house. I hear she's fuming like Eric Ten Hag was after Saturday's game.
Yeah, but I mean, I've locked her out once since we moved here. She's locked me out at least 4 times, so it was coming.
Don't let her hear that, though. Don't let her hear you say that.
I know, she'll hear it. I will keep score, and I will point score, and I will this at any given opportunity.
Anyway, Aaron Ramsdale started 76 of the last 77 Premier League games. He was replaced by David Raya for this game. Arteta came out after the game basically saying, no, this wasn't Ramsdale being definitively dropped. There's a lot of games to go around for between the two players, between the two goalkeepers. He compared it to just a change in midfield. I think, what was his name? Came in. Oh my God, it's a little lad they signed from Porto. I've gone blank, Jack Atkins. I've gone blank. Vieira. Bill Vieira came in, didn't he? Compared to a midfield change like that. Good Lord. So can you have 2 number ones?
I don't think you can have 2 number ones, but I can't disagree with his logic. There just seems to be the unwritten rule that you keep as your keeper, but anyone else is carte blanche for change. I don't think Ramsdale will see it that way. Certainly not. Don't think the goalkeeping staff will see it that way. But like I said, Arteta's, the way he said it, you can't argue with it, and said kept a clean sheet. It was a toothless Everton midfield, toothless Everton side. Sorry, I've got here the midfield may as well not exist. I'm just catching my breath. I had to absolutely leg it down the stairs then. But we were saying this when they signed Dave Raya. We were just like, well, surely that's Ramsdale's days at number 1 numbered then. But if he's insisting that they're going to have 2 number 1s, at least for this season anyway, whatever, really, yeah.
Yeah, if I was Chelsea, I'd be going, ooh, let's get Aaron Ramsdale in, because I don't think Sanchez is quite up to scratch, but that's just my opinion, and I might be talking bollocks.
I mean, we all know that Chelsea are very astute at signing goalkeepers, aren't they? So.
Kepa is still crap. Spurs have got off to their best start for 58 years now under Rams Postecoglou. Sheffield United took the lead at White Hart Lane in the game of the weekend there, where a fan was seen falling from the terraces onto a flag. The camera unfortunately cut away before we could see where he ended up. I hope he didn't fall too hard on the floor, because surely he looked like a bit of a bigger fella, so surely that was the only place he was going to go. There was a lovely swaz on the opener from Gustavo Hamer in off the beans on toast. Then, in the midst of 12 minutes of added on time, Richarlison actually scores, and it's a header, so Armageddon must be upon us or something like that, because that's a double whammy if I ever saw one, before Kulusevski twats one in for the winner. 2 goals in 2 minutes, 98th and 100th basically, I think they were. Unbelievable scenes.
Yeah, I've actually got a Richarlison goal. The sky's fallen, and then he got the assist for the winner as well.
Did he?
Yeah, and they were saying on Match of Day afterwards that he's been, quite open that he's been, struggling recently personally and that. And as much as I take the piss out of the pigeon-chested little fool who likes to give it the bifters against Liverpool, but isn't very good, he's still a human being. So I'm happy for him that he possibly got a weight lifted off his shoulders, but I still think he's crap. As for Spurs, the main thing I've noticed from Ainge ball, if we're calling everything someone ball, they just look, and I've said this until blue in the face, they just look free. They just look like they haven't got a care in the world, and they're just like, let's just enjoy our football. And like you said, it's that belief that shone through that when it went to the 900th minute or whatever it was when Richarlison scored, that they just kept going and going and going, didn't let the heads drop, and came away with 3 points.
Big time. I'm looking very good, calling Spurs my dark horse of the season in my season predictions. I am a football genius. But anyway, the other headlines from this game came from Paul Heckingbottom, the Sheffield United head coach. His comments after the game, we saw Sheffield United goalkeeper Wes Fotheringham. That's a hard surname for me to say. Premier League Wes, as Paolo Di Canio used to call him back in his Swindon days. Do you remember that? That's the same Wes.
It's the same Wes.
Wes, get off the pitch. You're not very good, Wes. Get off. That's like Di Canio's in the room. I do apologise, everybody.
Yeah, if I close my eyes, he's right here.
I'm a fascist now, father.
I was about to say, the big mad fascist.
Anyway, Wes picked up a yellow card in the first half for handling the ball outside the penalty box and spent the rest of the match being warned by referee Peter Banks to hurry up. Even though he wasn't overtly taking the piss with the time wasting, this was just the referees doing what they've done so far this season and stamping down on what is perceived as to be time wasting. Heckingbottom felt the officials' treatment of Fotheringham was unfair and he was merely waiting for his teammates to get in position and stuff like that. He said, this is Heckingbottom's quote, "It's pointless seeing him after. I know how little they know about football. I'm not moaning about decisions. It is game management, understanding the game. Appalling! Appalling! That's what I'm told after the game. Absolutely appalling. I bet Spurs say the same." He spoke about the referee saying to Heckingbottom, well, because Sheffield United apparently set up to play out from the back, they wanted to keep things short from the goalkeeper to the defenders, but then when they couldn't do that because Spurs were pushing them high, and instead of waiting for a man to become free like Wes apparently was in the game, the referee said, well, just kick it long then. The referee was dictating to Sheffield United how to play their game, and that's not right.
It's not right at all, and we've said it about this kind of time wasting thing. If someone's diving on top of the ball and making a meal out of stuff, that's one thing. But like you said, waiting for your team to regroup. What's he meant to do? Just hit and hope and then hand the ball to the opposition? That's not a game then, is it? That's just a training exercise for Tottenham.
I just hate I hate the facet of football is a bigger team like Spurs being sort of thwarted by smaller team, like maybe like in terms of their standard today. I don't mean that in general, but there you go. Teams close to the bottom of the table like Sheffield United, you can't expect teams like Sheffield United to go to Spurs and play an open game of football. That's just not how football works. They're going to go there and try and stifle this Spurs attacker who's been very good this season. If you take that away from the game, you lose a large part of what makes football football. It's the underdog story. Imagine the FA Cup. What's that going to mean?
Yeah. Well, especially if, like he says, if what he says is true and the referee was advising the goalkeeper not to play their game, the arrogance of them, that's like, shut up. You're meant to be you're an impartial rule enforcer. You are nothing more than that.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
Bastards.
I'm sick of talking to the refs. I'm sick of the refs. But they're the refs. They're such an important part of the game. But I think, bring back the days when a manager could just slap a ref. That's what I know.
Bring back Brian Clough. I think someone tried to. It sounded like someone's trying to break in, but I don't think they are. Anyway, Luka Paquetá said hello to Pep Guardiola and his backroom staff on the Manchester City bench before Manchester City came from behind once again to win at West Ham. Jeremy Doku looks like a bit of a player.
Yeah, unfortunately so. 43 seconds into the second half, he scored, wasn't it? And we were saying before about the crushing inevitability that is Man City. And it's like, they can't sign every good player, and then he looked fantastic.
Yeah, just to get the cliche book out once more, Jack Atkins, a jinking slalom run into the area before he stroked it into the far corner.
Well, they needed something because Haaland had a weirdly quiet day, but still managed to get on the score sheet, didn't he? So,
Well, that was because Areola in the West Ham goal was unreal. So was Edison. Edison makes this save from Kurt Zouma, a Kurt Zouma header in the bottom corner that was like, it was Gordon Banks-esque, so it was. It was incredible.
yeah, beautiful save. Like you said, but Areola as well. It's I like watching good goalkeeping performances as long as it's not at Anfield by an opposing team. And this is what you'd say. This is one for the neutral goalkeeping fan out there.
What's it called? The goalkeeping, what they call it? The goalkeeping union. That's the one I'm looking for.
For the union. One for the union.
Up the union. Up the unions. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier tonight, Thomas Frank used his time on Monday Night Football to bitch and moan about the referees, even though his team got away with 2 clear ones at St James's Park as Newcastle got back to winning ways. 3 defeats on the trot to Liverpool, to Brighton, and to Manchester City. Then we bounced back with a very, very ugly win against Brentford, but it was those referee calls that I guess made the headlines. I've gone through them already. Gordon's wasn't a penalty, I agree with that, but then the first goal should have stood where Wilson puts it in after he stands next to Flecken and does nothing really of note, and then also the penalty where Mbuemo does an elephant impersonation like a child. I can't do the noise. Can you do the noise? How do you do the noise? I forget. It's been that long.
No, that's too squeaky.
So squeaky I didn't even hear that. That was like a dog whistle.
No, is it? I don't know.
Thomas Frank was even moaning about the ball boys at St James's Park, but did you think, well, because I'm only making this a part of the headlines because he was on Monday Night Football on Sky Sports making a big hoo-ha about this, and now his team sets up to play against the bigger teams and whatnot with 3 at the back and 3 in the middle and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure everybody saw it. What did you make of his comments there?
Yeah, it did have a tinge of sour grapes because, like you were saying about the Wilson foul was very harsh, and Flecken was flapping. Their back line were absolutely all over the place at times. He's trying to find some way to moan without taking it out of his team, which you've got to kind of begrudgingly respect. But like you said, especially from your point of view as a Newcastle fan, he was talking out of his arse for most of it.
You know what he was falling into, Jack Atkins? He was falling into that category of the Klopps. A manager who you think is nice, and then he keeps talking, and he keeps talking, and he keeps talking, and you realise he's a massive arsehole.
It's known as a born winner, Ross. I think you'll find.
Oh, there's better winners out there. Anyway, elsewhere in football headlines this week, Tottenham chairman Daniel Levy has revealed there is a buyback clause secured in Harry Kane's Bayern Munich contract. Kane, of course, joined the German champions in a deal worth close to 100 million earlier this summer, ending his 19-year association with Spurs in the process. Daniel Levy was speaking at a fans forum on Tuesday and basically said there is a buyback clause. What could he mean by that? No, it's just very definitive in his statements. Do you reckon he'll ever go back?
Maybe when he's like 35 and he's won everything at Bayern Munich and he just wants to end his career on the right note. But considering how from what I've seen, how he started in Germany, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Can I just say their Oktoberfest shirt with the nice sort of flowery design on the sort of, is it embossed the right word? It's in the shirt, if that makes sense. It's in the pattern of the shirt. Oof. Sir.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see Harry Kane in lederhosen drinking one of those giant boot glasses. That's all. What a sight that's going to be.
I reckon Harry Kane's never had a beer in his life. He strikes me that sort of guy. Not in a straight edge way, but in like a, I'm scared of it sort of way. You know what I mean?
He drinks fizzy Vimto when he has his smiley faces and turkey dinos for tea.
Then he's awake all night long. Can't get back to sleep because of that poisonous juice known as Vimto. Anyway, the Ballon d'Or nominees have been sort of put forward by FIFA. It's called the best FIFA men's player officially. We have Alvarez from Manchester City, but I guess that's more for his work with the Argentina national team. Brozovic, De Bruyne, Haaland, Rodri, that lad from Napoli who I can't even begin to pronounce his name, the Messi lad on the wing, that lad. Mbappé, Messi, Osimhen, I've said that wrong as well, from Napoli. Osimhen, I always say it wrong. Why do I struggle with certain players' names? That striker from Napoli, the one that everyone likes. Go on, what's his name?
You get into that age now, Ross. We all do it.
Yeah.
My dad couldn't say Firmino, and we had him for years.
Big Victor.
I always say Osimhen.
Osimhen, that's what I'm looking for. Declan Rice is on there. Bernardo Silva is on there. Who are you giving the Ballon d'Or to?
I think they're going to give it to Messi. For me, it's got to be Haaland. Because I'm not usually a big fan of Ballon d'Or, because in the last few years, it's basically who scores the most goals, and that's not all football is. But based on the fact that he turned up, broke every record, won everything, didn't even break a sweat and looked like a robot, it's got to be Kevin De Bruyne. Obviously, Messi in the World Cup was fantastic, but PSG and into Miami, who's asked really. I think Mbappe, again, even though I've just like put down PSG, Mbappe should be in the running just for his performance in that World Cup final.
Oh, yeah. And the rest of the World Cup, he was unbelievable.
Oh, of course, but I mean, being the second ever player to score a hat trick in the final and not even winning the thing must be horrible. But I think Messi. My heart says De Bruyne, and my head says Messi.
My heart says
not De Bruyne, sorry, Haaland.
Yeah, but my heart says Messi just because of the World Cup. But it's weird how, like, when you look at the names, they're either on there because of solely their stuff with their national team or solely their stuff with their club team. There's no in between, is there? Which is a bit of a shame, because that would give you because I was thinking Rodri. Rodri's been unbelievable, got the winner in the Champions League final, if that means anything. But he's just also arguably the most informed, just dominating midfielder in world football, and he has been for a couple of years now. But again, he hasn't done too much with the Spanish national team. I guess that could be said, so that maybe weighs him down. I guess they're just going to give it to Messi so he can round off the set. It'll be his final one.
Yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting the era of Messi and Ronaldo to end. Not because I've not enjoyed watching them play football, just because I want to see more people in the conversation.
Yeah. I don't know what I did there. Yeah. Osasuna could face disciplinary action from the Liga after a section of their supporters directed a piece of chance towards Mason Greenwood as he made his Getafe debut on Sunday. The 21-year-old came off the bench for the final 30 minutes of the game, which Getafe won 3-2 over Osasuna, where he was introduced and cheered by some of the home fans, but also a section of the Osasuna supporters were heard chanting "Greenwood die" as he entered the field. Osasuna coach Jogaba Arrasate, I think I've said that right, or Arrasate, one of the two, admitted his disappointment towards the chanting, but also claimed that the Getafe supporters were guilty of abuse themselves. I mean, saying someone die might be a bit too far, but just Messi, stub your toe on some Lego. Get that in a chant. Hey, Mason Greenwood, why don't you stub your toe on some Lego, Mason Greenwood, you prick. There you go. Thousands will do that this weekend. Thousands.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Tell him to die is a bit harsh, but I'm glad they didn't give him a warm reaction. It doesn't have to be black and white. There can be a middle ground where, like you said, stub your toe on some Lego. Fine.
Hey, Mason Greenwood.
Mason Greenwood.
What was I going to say? But it was nice to see that. It feels weird calling it this as a Newcastle fan, but the sports washing campaign the English-speaking Getafe social media team have been on since Mason Greenwood signed for them. Oh, look at him signing the shirt of this little child. Isn't he a wonderful human being? I'm glad that people in Spain are seeing through that.
Yeah, it's. Again, it's weird saying it's nice to see, because it still was death threat at a young man, basically. But he's, been accused of some horrible things, and it's not going to go away anytime soon.
No, even though Manchester United have basically gone, we'll go down to Winchester and wait for it all to blow over by sending them out to Spain on loan, but it's not going to go away. Elsewhere in Spain, now this is a big one to unpack. This week, the Spanish women's national team players have said they were boycotting the national team, but did turn up for international duty. Some of them did. The players launched the boycott after the Spanish Football Federation's former president now, Luis Rubiales, kissed Jenny Hermoso after the World Cup final. We all saw that. It was disgusting. However, there are still doubts, this was a couple of days ago, whether the players will be forthcoming for the Nations League games. Spain plays Sweden on Friday and then face Switzerland next Tuesday. 6 players who lived in Madrid arrived at a hotel earlier this week in the capital city before leaving to join up with the rest of the team, where they will train before going to play Sweden on Thursday. The majority of the players have said they support the boycott. There was a couple who said they don't support the boycott. Guillem Balaguer, who of course has his finger on the pulse of all things football, and Spain and football, saying the players have reported to the camp because of the legal repercussions of not turning up, which could include being banned from the national side and fines. What a horrible situation to be found in, because sure, everyone knows what the right answer is, but then again, legal repercussions, you don't want to do that, so you're going to go. If I was them, I would be there, just because the legal repercussions, even though I might not agree with being there in the first place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's one of the unfortunate signs of the modern game, isn't it? Like you said, when money comes into it, sponsorships comes into it, outside sources that aren't directly involved with the day-to-day game, it is a tough position to be in. Yeah, you'd like to think if you're in that situation, if you were legally obliged to turn up, that you'd either turn up and just train and either maybe not refuse to play, but find a way to get some press time and say your thoughts on it and explain your situation. Because obviously there's a new manager there and Rubiales is gone. So it is, while I don't think a new regime is the right word, the kind of the more unpalatable sides of the Spanish women's national team have gone. Well, like you said, this is ongoing. It's rumbling. It's you've got to feel for the players involved.
Yeah, they're in a very tough position, but while they are there on international duty, they are going to meet with the Federation and government to continue negotiations, having previously called for changes to the Federation. Some have been made, but it's clear that more need to be named. Interestingly, the new head coach of the Spanish national team, Montse Tom, I guess we'll call his name, named the squad for the upcoming fixtures, as I mentioned there, against Sweden and Switzerland, and it included 15 members of that World Cup winning side, but also Hermoso, the lady who was kissed by Rubiales, was left out. In an updated story, as of 5 a.m. this morning on Wednesday the 20th of October, most of the Spanish women's national team have agreed to end their boycott, saying this is according to the Secretary of State for Sports, Victor Francos. As I said, happened at 5 o'clock this morning. After 7 hours of meetings, 2 of the 23 players called up for this month's Nations League games have chosen to pull out of the squad as a result of this thing. So then, it appears to be a case of certain players being scared of the legal stuff, but also a couple of players taking a stand because the changes that have been made aren't as wholesale as they apparently need to be. That's what I'm reading from that.
Yeah, it's... Again, the black and white of it suggests that it's, one for all and all for one, but there's so much at stake as well, and individual thoughts and feelings on their own careers, their own positions within the squad, etc., will come into this, rightly or wrongly. I don't know. My main kind of focus on this is on Hermoso herself, because obviously she's been left out, and this is going to grumble on the case between her and the Spanish Sports Federation. I know it was the Football Federation, wasn't it? Luis Rubiales. I wasn't sure if he was the actual sports as a whole, but whether she decides to enforce an actual boycott, whether she retires from international duty after this, you don't want to say it, but if she wants to make a stand in the modern game, there's only so many ways you can do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm sure many people are behind her. I will be. Up the Jenny. Up the Jenny. Up the Jenny Hermoso. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Jenny.
Earlier on, of course, we spoke about Jadon Sancho training away from Manchester United, him being handed a fine by the club after his scapegoat post on social media. But now there's more news coming out from Do Not Buy the Sun, which is a little rag over here in the UK. They've put a story out saying following Saturday's loss to Brighton, 4 Manchester United players were involved in a heated backstage in the dressing room. They were Bruno Fernandes, who was said to have confronted Scott McTominay. He must have been saying, "Why can't you play like you do for Scotland, Scott? What's going on here?" Who was, of course, McTominay was handed a rest start by Eric Ten Hag, but apparently had a bit of a stinker on the day. Centre-backs Martinez and Lindelof were also alleged to have gone at one another following a horrible defensive display. I think Pascal Gross put Martinez on his arse for one of the goals, which was fantastic. But again, it's more backroom stuff coming out of Manchester United.
Yeah, as for Martinez, I've often talked about my Schadenfreude. I don't like him, so I was glad to see him have a stinker the other day. He's the butcher. But Fernandes, when they handed him the armband, I was like, is that the right decision? Because he's always seemed how do I word this? Kind of
petulant.
In the mold. Yes, kind of in the mold of a Ronaldo type, where he wants to make sure that from the outside looking in, it seems that Fernandes wants to make sure that Fernandes is good and then Man United's good, but they go part and parcel. Obviously, he doesn't seem like a leader to me. And if he's blowing up at Scott McTominay, it's like, what? Leave Scott McTominay alone. Like you said, he's great for his country, but this was a rare start. And in a team that is, stuttering on all fronts, the single set ones out is unfortunate, but I don't think, I've saying before, I don't think Ten Hag's lost him. It sounds like if he's not losing the locker room, he at least needs to start, enforcing it a bit more. They need, I don't know, they need Man United's version of The Undertaker in there, a bit of wrestler's court.
Big time. But it seems like Fernandes has gone after an easy target there in McTominay, because I saw certain clips of Marcus Rashford's performance, certain examples where he should have passed the ball and he went for a shot, certain examples where he wasn't really tracking back, as we know he can do and does do and has done in the past for Manchester United, has done for England. And I'm like, why aren't you picking on Rashford? Why are you going after Scott McTominay, who is, I'm sure we're all in agreement, not a Manchester United standard player? He's a decent Premier League player, but he's not Man United level.
Yeah, he's a squad player, definitely. But like you said, he's handed a rare start. Fair dues to Ten Hag for saying, go on then, prove yourself, but definitely not at the level needed. And like you said, yeah, it does feel like he's picked an easy target. It's a bit like Begbie in Train Spotting when he's playing pool, half pissed, and just batters that little geek at the bar. Because like we were saying, yeah, Rashford, he had so many opportunities in that game, and obviously just couldn't finish his dinner. But yeah, it's ugly. It's ugly.
It is. We'll have to see how it resolves next week when we have another backstage thing. I say backstage. Backstage, like it's some sort of wrestling promotion. Locker room thing. Oh, it's not even American, Ross. Dressing room thing from Old Trafford.
Man United are the CM Punk of the Premier League. That's what they are.
And that's enough wrestling talk for one football podcast. Roy Hodgson, obviously best wishes with him. He was taken ill before Crystal Palace's game away at Villa Park on Saturday. We have an update from Crystal Palace yesterday, who said, we are delighted to confirm Roy Hodgson led Crystal Palace training today. This happened yesterday, of course. And the manager was absent from Saturday's match at Villa Park, but will return to the dugout for Saturday's match against Fulham at Selhurst Park. I was so sad when I saw this on Saturday morning, because he's 76, bless his cotton socks. He was still fighting people a third of his age a few weeks before, but you always fear the worst. It was like when you always see Attenborough trending on Twitter. When I saw this story of Roy, I was like, oh God, please don't say it, because Roy's a lovely man.
I have strong opinions about Roy Hodgson, but I don't want to see him gravely ill at the end of the day. And it is like you say, yeah, Attenborough, another one for me is whenever Billy Connolly trends, my heart sinks. I was surprised that he came back. I thought, you're well into your 70s, retire, you've made your money, just go play Warhammer or whatever you do at the weekends. But if you can still go, yeah, good. Be good to see you back, Roy, begrudgingly.
Why? You got it. Yeah, that feels like you're going after an easy target there. You feel like Bruno Fernandes in terms of the pantheon of Liverpool managers and where the club was at the time and who they were signing, all that sort of stuff. It feels like you're going for an easy target there, having a go at Roy Hodgson.
He's the worst manager we've had since Graham Souness.
But is he worse than Graham Souness? He can't be.
As a whole, probably not. No.
I hate Graham Souness. Anyway, across the Mersey we go once again. Normally Liverpool fans like to sing, I've learned this because I used to live with a Scouser, the Ev have got no money and we're all on the beak. What is the beak? I don't want to say. But now Everton have announced that American private investment firm 777 Partners have signed an agreement with Farhad Moshiri to acquire a full stake in his club. Moshiri had been looking to sell the Toffees in recent years, but has now agreed to hand over his 94.1% stake in the club to 777 Partners. How are they going to fit all them in the boardroom, Jack Atkins? Who knows? It must be a big room if they all get in there. I learned this week, because obviously Moshiri's time at Everton is all about investing money really poorly and spending stupid money on stupid things and not seeing good results on the pitch. I learned this week that David Moyes was in position to take over at Everton. This was a clip I saw on Twitter of hairy hands himself, Richard Keys, interviewing David Moyes, where Moyes revealed that in 2019 he is a massive wanker, married his we went through this in an earlier podcast, didn't we, who Richard Keys got married to recently and how he got together with said lady. He's a prime arsehole. But anyway, Anyway, he was interviewing David Moyes. Moyes said he signed a contract with Everton in 2019, but overnight, apparently he agreed it. He was going to get announced the next day or something, but they spoke to Carlo Ancelotti. Then all of a sudden, Ancelotti was the Everton manager and David Moyes was not. And Ancelotti was allegedly paid £260,000 a week during his time at Everton.
Oh, I mean,
which is a prime example of what Farhad Moshiri will be remembered for.
yes, because that deal worked out for everyone but Everton Football Club.
Exactly.
I remember when Ancelotti came in, me and my mates who were all Reds, we were just like, oh, okay, that's a serious appointment. And obviously the Everton fans were full of reverence, calling him Mr. Ancelotti. They got their first win against Liverpool in years in front of no fans because it was COVID season. And then the second Real Madrid fluttered their eyes at him, he was like, yes, not this stadium's made of wood, I'm off. And I did feel bad for like my Everton supporting family and friends because they were just in the slurry, I think is the phrase I'm going to use. As for this takeover by 777 partners, there has been some apprehension I've seen online from Everton fans because their track record, they've either got stakes or have had stakes in a number of teams who have not performed well basically since being taken over. And I think one of the key names involved was once indicted on like serious, I want to say drugs charges, which of course, people can turn their lives around. That may not have anything to do with their work in 7-7 Partners, but for a team that and a fan base that don't want to see their whole team dismantled, they want to see the club dismantled. They want to make sure that the stadium gets back on track. They want to not spunk money up the wall. They want to, at least be challenging for some kind of honours again. I think the apprehension's real, and I don't know. I hope it works out all right for them. I have a soft spot for the Ev. They're the Ev, aren't they?
At least they've got a new chat, if that's right, about one of their new owners being indicted on the drug stuff. The Ev have got some money and they're all on the beak. But yeah, I think I read somewhere as well that Bashiri was looking for like investment to help the stadium process come along because they were struggling in that as well, just because of obviously the ramifications of financial fair play and taking stuff away from the playing side and stuff like that. So to see him maybe give the money to someone who's not going to invest it well again, do you know any of the teams that 777 have been involved in the past?
No, if you keep chunnering, I'll have a look. I should have done a bit more due diligence.
Let's have a little sing-song about Everton. I'm not going to have a sing-song. I'm just going to try and kill some time by telling you. I might as well tell you my highlight of the week, Atkins, because this segment is brought to you by Claude Makaleli. Big tackle, sponsored by Claude Makaleli, as used to say on Soccer AM back in the day. I've got 2 sliding tackles being my highlights of the week this week. First and foremost, Kieran Trippier's big sliding tackle last night, where somehow he took the man out close to the byline and then kept the ball in one movement. It was a moment that had me celebrating like we just scored a goal. But also, we've got to go and pay a visit to Andre Orellana, who was playing over in Honduras, where Marathon were taking on Olympia, and somehow this man has done a knee-high tackle and taken out 2 players. Ross Tweddell, hit the footage now for people watching on YouTube.
Vamos a ver qué pasó con Andre Orellana. Ahí va. No puede ser.
Pero esto no solo es para Roja.
Es inconcebible que un futbolista pueda hacer esto.
No, extraño en Orellana. Es el fútbol profesional,
perdió la cabeza.
That was a big meaty tackle, Jack Atkins.
It was, you say a tackle, it was more like some kind of Liu Kang-esque dragon kick from Mortal Kombat. The fact he took out 2 fellas with it is, you've got to begrudgingly applaud it. It was impressive.
It was wonderful. I remember us moaning about, oh my God, it said Leanne Rhymes. Leanne James of the English national team when she got sent off in that game.
Lauren James.
Sorry, I'm on the mare today with names. Victor Osimhen. I've got it wrong again, haven't I? But when she got sent off, we were saying if you're gonna, stamp on somebody, really stamp on somebody. If you're gonna get a red card for a knee-high tackle, do it and take 2 players out. So fair play to Andre Orellana.
Yeah, it was
Leanne James. Jesus, wept Ross. Bloody Nora. There we go.
You can't fight the moonlight, Ross. Before I give you my highlight of the week, the other teams at 7-7 Partners in their portfolio, there's Standard Liège, Genoa, Vasco da Gama, France's Red Star FC, and Melbourne Victory. They do have a minority stake in Sevilla, but that's a minority stake because obviously Sevilla, serial Europa League winners. But it's not the portfolio of out and out winners in their leagues all over the place. But getting away from the Ev, for my highlight of the week, we've already gone over it. It was Paul Heckingbottom calling out the refs.
Yeah.
Alan Shearer disagreed with his comments, but I think that was more Shearer looking at the performance of the game in question rather than the idea of the refs having too much influence. And, whether he would have said it if he would have won or not is something different. But it's good that he's used his profile and he's speaking out because it's what all the fans are saying. It's what a number of journalists are saying. It's what a number of pundits are saying. But we need people in the game saying it. I just hope he isn't fined something daft like 400 grand or something.
Well, that's what I'm just typing now, just to see if he has been fined as we sat here on Wednesday morning. Because, apparently Chris Wilder's going back to Sheffield United. That are the rumours. Not confirmed, but the rumours that Heckingbottom's getting replaced. But, yeah, that's the thing with these post-match highlights. We all clamour for people to be honest, and then when people are honest, they're handed a massive fine by the FA and the Premier League every single bloody time. So hopefully Paul Heckingbottom isn't handed something like that because, as you say, what he said was bang on the money. Yeah, we go from the highlight of the week to the twat of the week. This is the segment, just in case it's the first time listening to the Hold and Give Football podcast. We have a highlight of the week, but we also have a twat of the week, which is given to the biggest twat in the world of football. Jack Atkins, I went first last time, so you can go first this time.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate scenes that we saw in Milan ahead of the Newcastle game where. You'll know the ins and outs better than I will, but we saw Newcastle fans attacked just merely for being Newcastle fans. And obviously we've spoken about hooliganism on this before, and whether rightly or wrongly, I said you can't stop firms, basically. If you've got two sets of fellas who want to agree to have a fight, they're going to have a fight somewhere. But when it's people attacking innocent people who are just there to watch football, when there's weapons used, when it's like life-threatening injuries, it's what's the point? Like, what's the point of two sets of people having a fight in the first place? But if everyone's a willing participant, that's one thing. But this is it's disgusting, and it's annoying that it's happened in Italy again because. I've got my old barber's a traveling Liverpool fan across Europe, but I think he went to one match in Italy once and went, moody, I'm never going again. Another one of my friends, as in the last few years, her boyfriend, again, is a traveling fan, and she started going to some of the European games with him. And I said to her, I was like, there's no way you're going to Italy. And she said, oh, yeah, we're not touching it. But yeah, if you'll know more about this than I will.
Yeah, apparently, well, from what we've read in the news, not even just on Twitter, it's been reported by the likes of Sky Sports, the Daily Mail were quite on top of it. There was just a 58-year-old Newcastle fan whose name I have written down somewhere, but I haven't read it out here. Might as well give him a little mention. Not that came out the wrong way. I'm trying to say, though. Eddie Mackay was his name, 58 years old, walking back to his hotel just after midnight with his son and his son's pal, all wearing Newcastle shirts. Apparently, they were set upon by 7 or 8 fellas in balaclavas who used machetes to rip the sort of Newcastle shirts off their backs. And then Eddie, who stumbled because he had hip problems, being an older fella, was stabbed 3 times. And luckily, I think he's all right. I think he's travelling back to Newcastle this morning because his daughter went out to Italy to get him. But it's another... They weren't even causing bother by all accounts, not even just some accounts. All accounts were saying they were just walking back to the hotel, but they were set upon because they were in a small group, a group that was smaller than the group that set upon them, but just because they were wearing Newcastle shirts. And I don't know how you prevent that. I mean, obviously you are going to get examples where there are small groups of people walking around together in a place like Milan, and stuff like that seemingly can't be avoided. But it's sad to read, isn't it? Because you just think this is an issue that was in football decades ago, but it's clearly still rife in certain places. It's weird because I used to follow England away, and I went to Turin. You have Juventus' new stadium, obviously, just inside the Alps, a lovely setting. But I was terrified, thinking, shall I go to Turin for Italy versus England in case something like this happens? Luckily, it didn't then, even though Turin is not a very nice place to visit at all, let me tell you. What a horrible place Turin is. But just to hear it happening again, it just makes you sad, doesn't it?
We had it outside Anfield a few years ago with Napoli fans cowardly attacking Sean Cox and it causing life-changing injuries to him, and it's cowardice at the end of the day.
It is. Aye. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. Hopefully football fans travelling around Europe keep themselves safe. So yeah, it's just been a horrible situation, but luckily Eddie's all right. My twat of the week, I've got to give it to Farhad Moshiri. Since his time at Everton came to an end, he didn't have much of a send-off from the fans, but I think we here at the Hold and Give Football podcast will give him a good old send-off and say you did a terrible job, Farhad. You put in lots of money and it got you apps. In fact, it took you backwards. It took you backwards from where Everton were when he took over to where they are now. You made a right mess. Good riddance. Well, no, not good riddance to you, because I think the Premier League will miss him. Missing seeing Everton spending wild money on players. Well, now you'd have to name them. Gylfi Sigurdsson, 45 million on him, for example. That seemed like a bit over the top, even though he did all right for Everton before things happened.
James Rodriguez, obviously leaving them in the slurry once again.
Keane up front.
Ashley Young, all 45 years of him.
It's weird because he spent that much money, and then obviously the stadium's gone on in the background, that then they couldn't spend money on the actual, playing team for this season. So I know they got Betterwin, who looks like a good signing, and he cost a fair whack, I think 25 to 35 million euros, somewhere like that. But they were signing, like, I remember Andros Townsend a couple of years ago on a free transfer. Look where he is now, can't even find a club. Ashley Young this summer. You've made a right pig's ear at Farhad, and you are a massive twat.
I think... Yeah, although I said there's apprehension from some Everton fans about 777 taking over, I've not seen anyone shed a tear for Farhad Moshiri, and the next one for them is they just want Bill Kenwright gone as well. Yeah,
good old Jack Frost himself. If you've seen Jack Frost star Michael Keaton, that's who Bill Kenwright looks like. Anyway, we move on to the hippest... You never noticed this before.
That's spot on.
It's the eyes.
I remember watching that film and thinking, that was quite a nice tale about a dead man who's now a snowman. But looking back on it, it's quite a frightening film.
It is a frightening film, especially when you're sat there watching it, as I was when I was a kid, and your dad had died, and you're looking outside at the snow thinking, Dad, are you out there? Heartbreaking scenes. Anyway, we move on to our new Hip Hop and Happening series. Welcome to Brighton Hove Albion fullback Purvis Estepinian. What are you talking about? Of course, we put out the feelers last week for your hottest takes on the world of football, and we have one from, oh my god, what does this even say? Here we go with the names once again, Ross. Beta Sweet Chin M. It's a wrestler.
Bittersweet Chin M.
Bittersweet Chin M. Why do I struggle to read? He says, Messi is a drugs cheat and would not have been the player he is today if not for HDH as a Ben, which means as a child. Now, to set the scene for those who don't know about Lionel Messi, Messi was diagnosed with a growth hormone disorder, GHD. It's often called idiopathic short stature, which is a wonderful name for such a disease. Just caught myself saying that sentence there. I'm a arsehole. Anyway, but that's a series of problems that go beyond being shorter than average. The treatments are expensive, about $900 a month back in the 90s when Messi was a wee nipper. The expense that was his modest family at the time couldn't afford, so the football teams he played for, they took up the cost. The treatment were often injections of human growth hormone, HGH, and for someone with GHD as he had, this is a life changer, allowing him not only to develop a greater height, but also help deal with a variety of internal issues, such as pituitary function, skin and teeth problems, poor vision, and lower immunity. The use of HGH, of course, is banned in all sports, amateur and professional, but there are two things that need to be made clear when Messi has been using the thing that has been banned by sports in general, both amateur and professionally. He didn't use it in adulthood. It was merely when he was a kid, and also he didn't use it as a performance enhancer. He was prescribed it by medical professionals in order to overcome a medical condition. The result was that he got a kind of normal sized human body. I say that. He's 5'7". I think the average for a man is 5'8" or 5'10". What is the average for a man? 5'8", I think it is, isn't it?
I'm not aware.
Yes, but he's 5'7".
We're having a brilliant day,
I know, I'm putting my foot in it so many times. If this is your first one, thanks for this, but I guess it's your last as well. He was only 4'2" when he was diagnosed his treatment, so now he's obviously 5'7". It's given him a life. I don't think the HGH has given him the football ability he has. It's just given him a body that is bigger than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, some could probably argue that being of such a short stature as a kid helped develop his game anyway, because being a smaller than average man when he was an adult anyway, just the his kind of low center of gravity made him impossible to play against at times. Calling him a drugs cheat is a bit harsh. I think I have muttered that at times when Liverpool have come up against Messi and have been annoyed, but that is certainly an estupinian. I'll say that much.
It certainly is a massive pervis. A big old dirty pervis there from old Sweet Chin Music. I disagree with it wholeheartedly. If he's prescribed it as a kid, he took it when he was a kid. He's not taking it anymore. He's only 5'7". He's not 6'7". Imagine if he was 6'7" and played like Messi. Then we'd be saying, "Wow, we need to have a sit-down conversation about this HGH he took when he was a kid." But the fact he's only 5'7", you can't inject football talent like that. I think your Purvis Estepinian is wide of the mark there. Shame on that. Shame on you.
The shameful Purvis is upon thee.
The shameful Purvis is upon thee. More shameful Purvises next week in the new Hip Hop and Happening segment on the podcast. Welcome to Brighton Hove Albion fullback Purvis Estepinian. What are you talking about? We move on from there to that mailbag. Ross@holdandgive.com. Thank you. The levels are getting back up there after a barren week a couple of weeks ago. Keep emailing in. I'll get to yours eventually. To be honest with you, I never pay attention to the names. I just pick them willy-nilly. I pick the best questions. So you might get picked every week. You might get picked no weeks. Just ask good questions. Please ask good questions.
I have no say in the matter, so yes, if Ross says it, then I agree.
I might give the honour to Jack Atkins next week to pick the mailbag questions.
For God's sake.
There we go. That's what we'll do. We kick things off with, "Hi guys, writing this after my Cardiff team absolutely shafted Swansea in the South Wales derby last night, which was a massive relief, as we've lost 4 in a row. It got me thinking about derby games. If there is a derby game on TV that is not related to your teams, will you tune in to watch them? I'll always try and tune into them as they are what football is about. Passion. Spelled P-A-S-H-U-N. Passion. FYI, Ross, we need more live streams so we can work together on predictions again. West Ham Conference League final. If you know this comes from Chris Council, who saw my prediction for the Europa League Conference final, West Ham against Fiorentina last season, and he put some money on, and it came in. And he won, and he kicked a bit of the profit back to me. So thank you very much, Chris Council, you honourable man. He kicked it back to Hold and Give. Up the channel. But yes, do you tune into derby games that aren't Liverpool-Everton when they're up on the telly?
Not as much anymore, only because I don't watch as much football as I did when I was in my 20s. But I did used to. There was a couple of occasions where me and my friends would meet up and go find a pub in town that was showing the Milan derby. We'd watch that occasionally. Aside from that, it's your usuals really: El Clasico, the Manchester derby, North London derby. The kind of the games where in previous years I would have sought out, but now it's more of a case of if it's on, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I always make sure to check out Celtic Rangers. I love an old firm. Ooh, firm. I just love that. I think the needle is where the cliche book would point towards. The needle of that game is always, because it's obviously it's not what it once was back when we were kids with Henrik Larsson and Dado Perso. I'm trying to think of a Rangers player now. Paul Gascoigne, that's better. But it's obviously not that level anymore, but it is still a good football occasion. It's always a raucous atmosphere. Obviously, I think there was no fans at the last one, no away fans at the last one at Ibrox. So when they get back in, I love the old firm.
Even though you enjoy Sunderland not being in the Premier League, do you miss Premier League town away derbies?
Nah. I know too many Sunderland fans in my own life. For some reason, even though I'm from Morpeth, which is 15 miles above Newcastle, and Sunderland is below Newcastle, so you'd think there'd be no Sunderland fans in Morpeth, because it's above Newcastle, there's a bollock load of them, and I'm friends with some of them, and I hate Derby Day. I hope we never play Derby Day again, because it was horrible as well, because I went to uni in Sunderland, And the first derby of my time at uni was the one where Ryan Taylor put it over the wall and bent it in, and that was the last time we won one, and we lost every single other one while I was at uni in Sunderland, surrounded by Sunderland fans. It was only my luck, though, of course. That would only happen in my life. We move on. Good morning, diddlers. Coming across from the Cultaholic Wrestling Podcast. I'm thoroughly enjoying the Hold and Give pod. Love Ross as always, but really enjoying hearing more and more about the mysterious Jack Atkins, who has rarely been seen on Cultaholic.
Mysterious? I'll take that.
Ooh, mysterious Jack. I want to get close to you, Shabba. Currently making my way through the podcast on episode 10. Ross, you mentions Ellis Patton's away days. I enjoy his shirt hunting videos. Me too. Sparking me to ask, what is your favourite football shirt of all time? And which retro shirts do you personally own? And which is your favourite? Thank you for all you do. And much love, former Bolton and home midfielder Stelios Yiannakopoulos. Jamie from Lancaster. And I said Leicester there after saying that name perfect. It used to annoy me so much. Yankopoulos, do you remember? Certain commentators would go Yankopoulos when it's clearly Yiannakopoulos.
I mean, that's easy for us to say, given our track record of pronouncing names on this podcast.
Leanne Rimes, England's best player for the ladies team. I'll never live that down. But anyway, what's your favourite football shirt of all time?
When I saw this question from our good friend Stelios, I went and got out of my closet the 96-97 Liverpool away shirt, which is my personal favourite Liverpool shirt. I paid a couple of quid for this the other year. Non-Liverpool, it's your usuals. Holland 88, Napoli 1990, the Mars kit, the Diego Maradona kit, because I had a little figure of Maradona when I was a kid, and I just since that day I want to own that shirt, but I'm not going to pay 300 quid for it. Fiorentina Nintendo 1998 shirt, just so I could run around just screaming Batty goal. And the Brazil 98 away shirt, the blue one with the rounded neck. Ooh. Always really like that shirt, yeah.
Oh, I like the Jogger Benito version of that one, like 04 sort of time. You know, that template when Nike had the logo too high. In terms of me, it's 96, well, 95, 97 Newcastle Grandad collar. It's the obvious answer. I also love the Newcastle kit after that with the sort of up the middle. Adidas once again. I can't wait for Adidas to come back next season, even though they had a mare with certain kits this year. I'm thinking of Arsenal's away kit and Manchester United's away kit. But in terms of not Newcastle shirts, obviously all the ordinary ones are there. But if I'll send you this on Slack quickly, Jack, so you look at it. Leon, I think it's the 10-11 season away kit. I remember buying this of classic football shirts many moons ago, and it is absolutely stupendous. It's like a carpet in a casino. I'll put a picture of it on the podcast. I'll remind myself to do so right now. But it's an unbelievable shirt.
My Slack has been very slow, so I'll come back to that in a second when it loads up. There was a shirt a couple of seasons ago that I'm gutted I didn't get a hold of at the time, and now it goes for a little more than I'm willing to spend. Here we go, Ross Tweddle. Here we go. Load. Come on, load.
Come on, the load.
Ooh, yeah, that is a casino carpet. Is absolutely bang on the money there. That's lovely.
It's bloody glorious, isn't it? There's a picture of me and Olivier Bernard when I'm wearing that shirt. I'll put it on the podcast now. Ha!
Roll the VT. The one that I didn't get at the time, I was living in Toronto, so it was everywhere in Toronto because Drake had it, but it was the 2015 Juventus pink away shirt.
Oh, with a star. Yeah.
The Jeep, and it's the black and white across the middle. The babe, absolutely gorgeous shirt. And it was one of those that every time I walked past the sports shop and saw it, I was like, I'll pop in and get that. And then before you know, I didn't do it. And like I said, it goes for more than I'm willing to spend. I spend a lot of money on my clothes, but I don't really wear football shirts as much. So I'd get battered if I did it.
But that's a cruel lesson you learn as a football fan when it comes to football shirts. Because I remember that there was many years where I didn't buy a Newcastle shirt. And it was the year we came back up in 2017. We had a third kit, which was all black. It was Puma. It had like gold trim on everything because it was like the 125th anniversary of the club or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I really like that shirt. But I'm going to wait until it gets a bit reduced towards the end of the season because I don't want to pay... I don't know what it would have been back in 2017, 60, 70 quid. I don't think it would have been 70 quid, but 60 quid, let's say, for a brand new football shirt. Then you wait and you wait and you wait. Then it comes down and you go to buy it and they don't have your size. And that's a horrible lesson to learn as a football fan. You've just got to get in there early. It'll cost a lot. It'll feel a bit harsh at the time on your bank account, but in the long run, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, because I know that you're well, anyway, in your past, you're a very ardent collector of football shirts. I'm sure, was it you and Aiden saying that between you at one point you had pretty much every Newcastle shirt of the last 30 years?
Yeah, next time I go and see me mum, I'll do a little video of all my Newcastle shirts. I've got them in the wardrobe at my mum's because I've not got the room here, to be honest with you. Let me see how many Newcastle shirts I've got in my closet right now. I don't think I've got too many, just because of space issues. Talk amongst yourself, Jarkins.
So, as we can see now, Ross Tweddle is going to he's cleaning out his closet like Eminem once did, but Eminem didn't have a collection of Newcastle United football shirts from throughout the years, but Ross Tweddle does. Let's see what he unearths when he comes back.
I'm back, everybody. So they're all... That was perfect, that. I think there's some under the bed, but in terms of what's in the closet and gets worn by me body when I go to the matches and whatnot, we have this rascal thing, which is the training shirt from... They've tried to recreate what we did in the 90s of Castore, and I thought it was all right, so I went and picked one up. Then we go on to a Brucey bargain I got towards the end of last season at the club shop. It's one of the legit, when you get the real player versions.
Oh, yeah.
But they were selling them off for 30 quid, and I'd just been on the stadium tour with a 10% discount as well. So, I'll get myself one of them. I saved myself £3 off the 30. That's in there. Then we have this in tribute to Jacob Murphy, my favourite Newcastle player. The back page in Newcastle upon Tyne sells this. I got it for my birthday. Idolised in Newcastle is absolutely spot on. I'm classifying that as a football shirt. It turns out I've got more than I thought, Jarkins. 2 more to go. Then we've got, straight from DH Gate, with the glittery sticker sponsor. Sorry, the glittery sticker Newcastle badge. It looks legit, doesn't it? It's a very good example.
Really does.
It looks very good example. It's got I don't know if it's picking up on camera, but the textured sort of ribbed feel of the football shirt. There you go.
Yeah, that's picking up.
It's up there. So there you go. That's in there. £10 or $10 that cost. And then on top of that, I went and traded in my MacBook from 2014. I went to CEX. Funny story, went to the Apple store. They're like, we'll give you 40 quid. But he goes, you might as well go to CEX, but I reckon you'll get more there. I was like, all right, I'll go and try my hand. 140 quid I got. Apple store offered 40 quid. So there's a tip for you. If you've got an old something device to trade in, go to CEX. And I got me 140 quid, and just past CEX in the Metro Centre, if you go around into the Red Mall, is the Castore shop, and I caved. I got a Saudi Arabia Newcastle shirt, but I like the design. I don't like the colour. Nice shirt. I don't like a nice shirt. I don't like the colour. I get the reservations about the colour, but it's on the floor. I got one because it was a rush of blood. I had a fresh 140 quid in my wallet. I went and spent that. But there you go. That's all my Newcastle shirts in the closet down there. There's a couple of England shirts as well, but yeah, there we go. I've got more than I thought.
How many do you estimate you got at your mum's then?
40 to 50.
Bloody hell.
I reckon I've got 3 or 4 under the bed as well here. It's a terrible, terrible addiction.
And I know that you've sold some high-ticket items across Depop in these last few years as well.
Yes, you can follow me Depop shop. If you go to my Instagram, is it on there? I don't know. It's called Football Shirts and Other Things on Depop. That's my name. Let me see if you can search that. Football Shirts and Other Things. Depop. If you type it on Google. Oh, no, you just get football shirt. You can't search specifics. But that's what the shop's called anyway if you come across it. There is a couple of shirts left on there from my collection if you want to go and buy one. I'm open to offers. Anyway, we move on in the mailbag. Hello, fellas. I support a club in Mexico called Tigres that before 2011 didn't win anything since 1982. Now, in the last 12 years, they win a lot. And I have to admit that a lot of that is for being one of the richest teams in the league. Someone's got to be the richest team in the league. Haven't the Newcastle. There have been a lot of transfers that I would never have imagined as a young fan, especially 2 Frenchmen. One is now the club's biggest goal scorer, I guess the highest goal scorer, and the other one being ex-Marseille and Newcastle United player Florian Thauvin, that in 2021 technically was a world champion and who had a remarkable career ascendance after he left Newcastle. That Thauvin who was playing for Marseille never looked like existing at Newcastle. He was a fish up a tree at Newcastle. But anyway, my question would be, has there ever been a transfer where you feel like you didn't know how your team pulled it out? If you don't know how your team pulled off the signing, even if it didn't work out in the end. Up the hold and give. And that's from Jose in Mexico. You've got better English than me, Jose. Up the Jose. So a transfer Liverpool have made that you didn't think was possible.
Well, you're going to call this a cop-out answer, but Jurgen Klopp.
Mm.
Honestly, that was one for days that me and my mates were just like, nah, how have we done this? We went from, a Brendan Rodgers who took us as far as we did, narrowly missing out on the league and stuff like that. But getting Jurgen Klopp, we were just like, nah, this isn't happening. This is ridiculous. In terms of players, especially under Klopp, we don't often go for the finished product. We spend a lot of money, as we've seen, but usually that comes from player sales. And we either go for players playing at lower table teams or young prospects. So in terms of a big marquee signing, only Thiago really comes to mind.
Yeah.
Where that was one where we were all very excited because we were like, oh, are you kidding? Obviously, he's been very injured since he's been at us, but when he plays, he's still absolutely class.
Yeah, obviously, as a Newcastle fan, things are changing very recently for us in terms of the calibre of player we're bringing in. Tonali, I guess, fits into this category of how the hell did we get him. But the one that sprung to mind straight away, it ended terribly, obviously, and it was terrible for most of it throughout as well. But Michael Owen, you got to think where Newcastle were in 2005 when he signed. Yes, we'd finished 4th, 3rd, 5th. The season before he arrived, we finished 14th under Graham Souness, and then he came from Real Madrid. He came a number of years, 2 or 3 years after his time at Liverpool, where he won the Ballon d'Or. He was Harry Kane stature, but I'd argue a bit higher, just to compare it to someone of the modern day. I think he was higher stature than Harry Kane is now. How Newcastle got him, obviously, has come out since that Liverpool didn't want to pay as much as Newcastle did, and that's why he went to Newcastle, not Liverpool. Still, it was I didn't get it. The prospect of him and Shearer being the front line for a season was mouth-watering at the time. It didn't really pan out the way everyone thought it would do, though, after he got his ankle shattered by big Paul Robinson on, I think it was New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, something like that, away to Spurs. But yeah, how Newcastle signed Michael Owen back then, I've got no idea.
Yeah, because how old was he at the time? About 25, 26 as well.
Prime Michael Owen. You thought it was prime, but the injuries were mounting up already, I think, as well.
Yeah, because even though everyone can't stand Michael Owen, it's easy to take the piss. At his pomp, Michael Owen was
unbelievable,
incredible player,
pace,
absolutely incredible player,
finishing. He had everything.
Yeah,
he was the golden boy of the English game.
wonderful partnership with Emil Ivanhoe-esque as well. Let's not forget that.
I beg your pardon, Emil what?
Ivanhoe-esque.
That's his name, Ivanhoe.
I'm sure, yeah.
I've never heard that name in my life. Ivanhoe.
Ivanhoe.
How are you spelling
Emil. that? Ivanhoe. Emil William Ivanhoe-esque.
Ivanhoe.
Ivanhoe. Yeah.
Incredible. But his partnership with Emil was nice.
But yeah, as soon as you were saying this then, and it was going on to your answer, for me, when I thought of Newcastle, I was like, it's got to be Owen. Because everyone thought that would work out. Like you said, it's the kind of passing of the torch from Alan Shearer, who was still Alan Shearer, but entering one eye on the twilight of his career. And then, like you said, on paper, a Michael Owen who is at his prime. It looked like it couldn't fail, but unfortunately, it did.
Yeah, I think he got 7 in his first 11, so it got off to a good start. But then, he, as I say, when Paul Robinson went over his ankle around Christmas time of 2005, then it never got back to where it was. And then he was an arsehole. He was very selfish in the dying embers of his time at Newcastle, but I guess you can see why certain players are like that, who are as injured as Michael Owen was for the 2 or 3 years previous when he's looking for a new club in the summer. But there we go. That was the Roberto Mailbaggio. Thank you for your submissions. Ross@holdandgive.com. If you want to get them in there, you can see the big questions already been answered during the podcast. We'll decide what that is after the fact, Jack Atkins. We'll wrap things up in a professional manner for the first time ever on the Hold and Give Football podcast. If this was your first one after my little appearance on Radio Newcastle yesterday, thank you very much, Tom Campbell. If you've seen the little plugs on Cultaholic, thank you very much, Tom Campbell again for prodding me to do it, because I keep forgetting to do it, Jack Atkins. But there you go. Tom's the pro, I'm a mere amateur. So there we go. I've learned that at the end of the podcast. Any closing remarks before we go away for another week?
This has been one of our more chaotic episodes, but I think it will hopefully be an entertaining listen, but surely the fans will let us know.
Yes, and we have scheduled news as well. This is what I'm going to try and stick to. It's still very much an own time thing, apart from this podcast, which has wonderfully been afforded as part of our working days. But on a Wednesday, the Hold and Give Football podcast will be out every single Wednesday. That's been established, that's fine. Every Thursday, myself and Kayla will be doing some fantasy football warfare, seeing how much of an arse we make as fantasy football each and every week as we ply our trade near the bottom of the Cultaholic Office Fantasy League. Then on a Friday, we've got the Fun Club, which started last week. We'll be having an episode every single week with a rotating cast of myself, Owen Mawson, Joel Holland and Dan Heppel playing those sort of games you play down the pub with your pals, but we'll stick them on YouTube, although this Friday's episode is not going to be that sort of game you play with your pals because there's technology involved. Ooh. How exciting. We'll have FIFA streams now every Sunday because I've finally got this setup working at home and I don't want to go to the office at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, so that'll be at 9 o'clock BST/GMT when the clocks change every single Sunday. The live streams are back and kicking. We had Newcastle's game live stream reactions yesterday. The North London Derby is Sunday's game. We'll try and do a game every single game week in the Champions League and in the Premier League. And that's it. We'll try and keep to that every single week. Maybe the odd tier list here and there. Maybe the odd discussion video here and there. Maybe the odd Clive F. saucy saxophone solo. But that's the schedule we're going to try and keep to for the foreseeable. And hopefully the Hold and Give will grow.
Up the schedule.
Up the schedule. I've been Ross, joined by Jack, and we'll see you next week.